This lesson is over adding and subtracting fractions. First thing that we're going to do is review how we add and subtract fractions when they have like denominators, and then we'll move on to when they have unlike. So we have 3 1/4 and we have 3/4, and we're adding them together. So when we have common denominators, it makes it a little bit easier on us. Really what's going on here is that we have 1/4 added to 3/4. So what that gives us total is 4/4. Notice that the denominator did not change. It's still out of 4, but we're adding the individual pieces together. And then this is 3 plus nothing, which is still 3. We always want to give our answer in simplest form. So when you look at this, 4 pieces out of 4 pieces, or 4/4, is the same thing as a whole. So this is going to become 4. On this one, we have 1 5/6, and we have 2/6. Now, if you think of a pie on this one, we have 5 pieces of the pie, and we're adding 2 pieces to it, which means we have more than a full pie. So we have 6, 7 pieces, so that was 5 plus 2 out of 6, and then 1 plus 0 is 1. Now again, we have more than a full pie, so this is going to become 2, but there's that 1 piece left over. So again, 6 goes into 7 one time evenly with 1 piece left over. So our procedure whenever we're adding and subtracting fractions is we always have to change the denominators to make the same. We're going to find common denominators. And then once we find that common denominator, we're going to change the numerators to match, because if you multiply by the bottom, you also have to multiply by the top. You'll borrow if needed, and you'll add or subtract the numbers, the numerators, sorry, which is the top numbers. The denominator always stays the same. If your answer is improper, you must change it to a mixed number, and you must simplify your answer if possible. Okay, that was a lot of words, so we're just going to look at the process. So we have 7 4/9 and 15 2/3. On this one, it doesn't matter which one's on top because I'm adding. All right, these denominators are not the same, so I have to make them the same so that my pies will match up. So to do that, I need to find a common denominator between 9 and 3. So what you're really doing is looking for your least common multiple. What can I make both of these into by multiplication? Well, 3 can easily be made into a 9 by multiplying by 3. So really, all I have to do is change the bottom number in this case. So this is going to be 15 and 6/9. Notice I multiplied the bottom, which also meant I had to multiply the top. So I have 4 pieces and 6 pieces, which makes 10 pieces out of 9. And then I have 7 and 15, which is 22. Now I have an improper fraction here, so I have to figure out it takes 9 pieces to make a pie. I have 10, which means I have 23 whole pies with 1 piece left over. On the next one, I have 8 4/6, and I have 7 2/3. Now, I have to find a common denominator between 6 and 3. So the least common multiple between 6 and 3 is 6. I can easily make that into 6 by multiplying by 2, which means, again, I don't have to do anything to that top number. So 4 and 4 makes 8 pieces out of 6. 8 and 7 makes 15. Now, 6 goes into 8 one time. So if I have 8 pieces and it only takes 6 to make up a pie, that means I have 16 whole pies with 2 pieces left over. Oops, sorry, that's a 6. Now, hopefully you noticed that this is not completely simplified. So I need to divide by 2 on both top and bottom to make this 16 1/3. You always want to write your answers in simplest form, which means no improper fractions and these have to be reduced completely, simplified completely, sorry. 2 1/10 and 7 9/20. All right, this one can be multiplied by 2 to make it into a 20. So this is going to be 2 and 2 over 20 and 7 and 9 over 20. That's going to give me 11 pieces out of 20 and 9 whole pies. This is not improper, and it's reduced completely. So my answer is 9 and 11/20. Now, when we do subtraction, remember that it has to go in the order as it appears, and these get a little more complicated sometimes because we do have to do some borrowing. Now, the common denominator here is still 9, so this is going to be 17 and 4/9 and 15 and 6/9. So the problem we have here is that we only have 4 pieces, but we need to take away 6. So I like to think about this as pizzas. This means I have 17 whole pizzas and 4 pieces of pizza. And we have 9 pieces to a pizza. So if I'm going to cut up one of my pizzas, I now have 16. I've cut it up into 9 pieces, which I've added to the 4 that I already had. So this is really going to be 16 and 13 over 9. Now, since I've borrowed, I can take 13 minus 6, that's going to give me 7 pieces left over, and 16 minus 15 is going to give me 1 whole pizza left over. So let's try that again. 8 and 7/9 minus 7 and 8 over 18. I need a common denominator here, so I'm going to multiply 9 by 2 to make it into an 18. So this is going to be 8 and 14 over 9. Sorry, 18. And this is going to be 7 and 8 over 18. 14 minus 8 is 6. I don't have to borrow this time. 8 minus 7 is 1. Hopefully you notice that both of these can be divided by 3. So this is going to be 2 over 6. Oops, I didn't do it all the way, so I can go ahead and divide by 2 again, and that's going to give me 1 and 1/3. So now we have 14 and 1/3 minus 7 and 7/12. Now, to make this into a 12, I can multiply by 4. That's going to give me 14 and 4 over 12 and 7 and 7 over 12. Now we do have a problem here because you can't take 7 away from 4. So again, I'm going to cut up a pizza, which means I only have 13 whole pizzas left. Each pizza has 12 pieces, so when I cut it, that means I'm going to add 12 pieces to the 4 I already had. So this becomes 13 and 16 over 12. Now I can do my subtraction. 16 minus 7 is 9, and 13 minus 7 is 6. Both of these can be divided by 3 to simplify my answer, and that's going to give me 6 and 3 over 4. Let's look at a few word problems. Carlos has 2 1/5 cups flour to make homemade tortillas for his Spanish class's Cinco de Mayo party. If he needs 6 cups of flour, how much more flour does Carlos need? Okay, well, he needs 6 cups, but we already have 2 1/5. So we're going to subtract these values to figure out how much he has left. Now, our problem here is we have nothing here, and you can't subtract 1/5 from nothing. So I actually need to borrow and make that into a 5, which means I'm going to cut up a pizza into 5 over 5 pieces. So 5 over 5 is 1 whole pizza, and then those 5 make my original 6. So 5 minus 1 is 4, and 5 minus 2 is 3. So I still need 3 4/5 cups. Shannon has 2 4/5 cups of oatmeal and 1 7/10 cups of raisins to make oatmeal raisin cookies for her class's holiday party. How many cups of oatmeal and raisins does she have in all? This is telling us that we are adding these two values together. I need a common denominator to be able to add, so I'm going to multiply this by 2 to make it into a 10. So 8 and 7 is 15 over 10. 2 and 1 is 3. 10 goes into 15 one time, so that gives me a 4 with 5 pieces left over. And of course, I do need to simplify my answer. So this is going to give me 4 and 1/2 cups. There is one last thing that I want to talk about before ending the video, and it's if you have something like this. Sometimes your denominator, you have to change both denominators. So you need to think about what's the least common multiple between 5 and 4. Well, 4 times 2 is 8, and 5 times 2 is 10. And then this is 15, times 3 is 12, times 4 is 16, times 4 is 20, times 5 is 20. Ooh, there's their least common multiple. So to make this into a 20, I need to multiply by 4. And to make this one into a 20, I need to multiply by 5. Now that they have common denominators, I can still add the top, and then I can simplify my answer. So that was just an example to show you that it's not always just multiplying one by a number. Sometimes you might have to multiply both by different numbers to come up with something that they can be the same. Please complete the next 2 pages in your workbook.